Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We're going to get right into the news today because things are moving very, very quickly.
To say the least. We are going to have Professor Jeffrey Sachs join us later in the show, so really looking forward to that. Emily is going to go through some of the key clips from her interview with Tucker. But yeah, we want to just jump right in because things are moving so incredibly quickly. This morning, Donald Trump coming out guns blazing, threatening both Israel and Iran not to violate a ceasefire that he helped to broker yesterday. I'm going to play the full comments here so you can really get a full sense of what is going on. And then after that, I'll back up and we'll walk you through exactly how we got to this point. Go ahead and take a listen.
The peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement, do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed to
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
You don't believe that Iran can rebuild its nuclear program?
Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize.
So there you have it. President saying he is very unhappy with Israel dropping a load of bombs. Also saying that he thinks these are two countries that have been fighting for so hard and so long. They don't know what the F they're doing. Dropping the F-bomb here. This comes on the heels of a whole lot. I'll just go ahead and put up the, or read through the True Social posts that have come out just this morning. Again, this is in the context, and I'll show you all of this in just a moment, of a ceasefire deal that the president announced yesterday evening. So first thing we got this morning is President Trump posted, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it is a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Next, he posted, Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave, he puts in quotes, to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And then the latest one that we got, and by the way, we're recording this at 8:08 a.m. this morning. This is from about half an hour ago. Iran will never rebuild their nuclear facilities. And that was the other significant part, Saagar, of what the president was insisting on there in his rant and screed against CNN and MSNBC, MSDNC as he was calling it, is the fact that insisting that the nuclear facilities that we bombed were completely obliterated. I think this being significant because he wants to be able to claim that something was accomplished with this incredibly dangerous and escalatory mission that he engaged in.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think even before we get to the macro, it's really just worth ruminating on the last 12 hours because originally we had the ceasefire. We can actually put that up on the screen. A1, please, just to show everybody. This is how things started out. Congratulations to everyone. It's been fully agreed there'll be a ceasefire. Then this is the confusing part. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. Now, immediately after that, there was some confusion and some reporting that came out as to whether it was all even true. Put A2, please, up on the screen so you can see it was like Trump, Israel and Iran agreed to a ceasefire. Then Iran, we have not received any ceasefire proposal. Israel, we are declining to comment on any ceasefire. Iran says they have agreed to the U.S. proposed ceasefire, but they propose a different timeline than the one that was offered by Trump, 3:30 a.m. Jerusalem time. And initially, then we see reports that Israel actually carries out its strongest strikes ever of the entire campaign all across the city of Tehran, something that Trump mentioned in his tirade, saying who in the first hour of ceasefire goes in there and blows it up. We were like, oh, interesting. You know, we're starting to pay attention a little bit here to what these Israeli strikes actually are going to do. Then what happens is that the Iranians fire missiles also after their so-called 4 a.m. deadline that their own foreign minister announces last night. Actually, a significant amount of missiles for civilians were killed inside of Israel, and there's a significant amount of damage. Then, this was roughly 3 hours before we're filming, the IDF announces that they are going to obliterate Tehran. They're going to strike back. The war cabinet approves. Itvar Ben-Gvir posts one of those things being like, hey, you guys asked for it. We're coming for you. IDF jets are literally over the skies of Tehran, and then Trump walks out onto the South Lawn, and that's where he gives his tirade. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. I'm very upset with Israel. Orders Israel by Truth Social to stop, and so that's where things stand as for right now. It has been like an absolutely insane 24-hour period, but yeah, let's then take a step back and actually look analytically at everything this is the fakest, end of a conflict and beginning of a conflict of all time. So Israel, and we haven't even gotten to the fact that Iran, launched 14 missiles at a U.S. airbase in Qatar.
Our largest airbase in the region.
The largest airbase in the region, huge logistics hub. I talked a lot about it yesterday. Actually, can we put some of the VO of that, please? A7 guys. Can we go ahead and show it to everybody here? You got some U.S. service members that are cheering on the Patriot batteries and the show. I mean, it's pretty surreal. As people know, I went to high school in Qatar, so it's pretty insane. I literally, I've been to that airbase. Went to high school there. I knew some people who still live in the country. It's pretty wild. The airspace was closed. Qatar Airways, one of the largest carriers in the world, turning planes around in the middle of the sky. It was a very dangerous situation. So that is happening. Immediately afterwards, the Iranians, basically the news comes out that they coordinated their strike with Qatar and gave a heads up to the United States. It was a very, very calibrated response. It was the off-ramp. Trump takes the off-ramp and he's like, thank you, Iran, for giving us a heads up about the strike. There's been no damage here at the airbase. No Americans were killed. Now it's time for world peace. So Iran executes a fake attack on America. America does basically a fake claim. We get to pretend that Iran's nuclear program is gone. This is all a fugazi, let's all be honest.
Yeah. And
then Israel gets to, I guess, pretend that this was really about the nuclear program and not about regime change this entire time. So it's fake literally all around.
Yeah.
Everyone is pretending at every level. I mean, the truth is that the Iranian nuclear program and the uranium stockpile remains intact, despite whatever they want to claim. I saw the vice president on Fox News being like, it's been buried, and actually it's no longer a problem. There's literally not a scrap of evidence to back that up. In fact, all arms control people are saying, actually, we know exactly where it is, and they do have still some secret facilities. They're roughly 3 to 5 years away, likely, from being able to create a nuclear bomb if they wanted to. In fact, the strategic logic of doing so probably has never existed more.
Oh, absolutely.
On the Israeli side, I mean, it's pretty obvious that from day one, none of this was really about the nuclear weapons program because they're blowing up half of the regime and executing all of these people. Okay. And then again, on the Iranian side, I mean, look, we can't, it's like, it's been embarrassing for them as well. I mean, they had their entire command and control basically infiltrated by Mossad. Yes, they were able to establish some credible ballistic missile deterrent, but they had their whole air defense systems that were wiped out. And the reason they took their off-ramp is because at the end of the day, they were getting pounded and they were at serious risk.
I think the Iranians, they weren't the ones on the on-ramp to start with. So, for them to take the off-ramp, it was because they didn't want this war to begin with.
That's also the strategic logic of this, where, on the one hand, Iran is a regime of Nazis who chant death to America, but then on the other, they are a restrained and rational party giving, heads up to the United States of America and to Israel and taking the first chance at an off-ramp and a ceasefire. So which one is it?
Can we hold on that point? Because I want people to really think about this. I want you to think about the way that the Iranians have been portrayed in mass American media, certainly my entire life, as this Nazi-esque, belligerent regime that the moment they got a nuke was going to come and blow up New York City, right? That's how we're supposed to understand them. But not only in this conflict, okay, let's be really clear. The Iranians are the ones that de-escalated and created the possibility of de-escalation. Because our actions of dropping a dozen bunker buster bombs on their nuclear facilities, our actions were incredibly inflammatory and escalatory. Their reaction to that was to tell us, hey, listen, we got to do something in response to this. But here's where it's going to be. Here's when it's going to be. So we can just do a performative strike that is not going to actually cause any damage, which it didn't, and certainly no casualties, which it also didn't, so that we have a chance at, taking the tensions down. Incredibly, look, I mean, I'm not sure it was the right decision. In fact, I think if there's any critique strategically, just tactically, of the Iranian government, it's actually that they've been too weak in response to the provocations, especially the provocations from Israel, and also the provocations from Trump in his first term when he assassinated Qasem Soleimani. What he learned from that is there's no price to be paid from messing with them. And so that's, if anything, tactically, that would be the critique of them. And yet we're supposed to believe that they are hell-bent on getting a nuclear weapon and that the second they do, they're going to drop it on Kansas or Missouri or New York City or whatever. This is preposterous. It's total and complete nonsense. The people have been behaving like the biggest maniacs, psychopaths, and completely rogue regime that do actually have a secret nuclear program are the Israelis. They are the provocateurs here. Now listen, Trump does not get off the hook. He decided that he wanted to engage with Israel in this incredibly stupid, foolish, dangerous game. And now he's pretending, to your point about the fakery, he's pretending, we obliterated their nuclear program. Okay.
Look, if that's what you need,
if that's what you need to pretend in order to get sure. But the reality is, what have we, those of us who are living in the real world, what have we actually gained? What we've actually gained is we provided more incentive for the Iranians to pursue a nuclear weapon. We have allowed Israel to, you give those people an inch, they take a mile. If you think this is it and it's over and it's done, you think Bibi Netanyahu is about to wake up today and say, regime change in Iran, I don't really need that. I'm good. Now that they dropped their bunker busters and the nuclear program is not at all decimated, I'm good. I can just sit back and it'll be fine. No, he and his allies, of which he has many in this town, as Lord knows we've seen, and the media, he and his allies will keep pushing. There will be another, Iran violated the ceasefire, now we have to bomb this. This will not be the last time because they roll out this playbook every single time. I don't know if there's ever been a ceasefire agreement that Israel has agreed to that they haven't violated.
Happened in Lebanon, exactly. And look, I mean, this is again why this whole MAGA cope is driving me crazy, because what you're watching here is not some grand master plan. It is utterly schizophrenic. And we know this. I even know it. I've spent the last 2 weeks of my life on the phone, and it's ironic because they're like, we trusted the plan all along. And I'm like, do you want to know who didn't trust the plan? A massive number of people with top secret security clearance working in national security in this White House Situation Room or around it, in the Pentagon, in the State Department, in the intelligence community, who thought that we were this close to the brink of war because of the capricious nature of the way Trump has done this. Remember, let's just look again at the public statements, just from and again, there's really no plan behind this. Initially, America has nothing to do with the strike because it's a, quote, yellow light. Then Trump gets excited, and then we're going all in. We're actually okay with all of it. And then America is going to come in. We give them a 2-week pause, but actually bomb them after 2 days. We demand unconditional surrender, and we sign a ceasefire within 48 hours of after bombing them. It's like, by your own admission, literally nothing of what you said makes any sense. The diplomacy was used as a ruse, and then you demand and then you're saying we're going to have regime change. So what happened to unconditional surrender? Which is it? And this is exactly the problem: is that the Israelis have a major strategic opening here if they need it. Trump is angry because he didn't get his PR win initially. Now they get to go right back to work on him, just like they did with the negotiations. Remember, if this does not end today, Trump wants it to end today, but what will happen? Already
today, Trump wants it to end
Trump
today.
wants it, exactly. Trump wants it
Maybe.
to end today. He's like, we will now have peace for all time. He literally said that. I'm not joking. I'm like, okay. Well, I've already watched, and I follow all of these people religiously. Mark Dubowitz, Jason Brodsky, all these other, United Against Nuclear Iran, the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, all of the like actual neocon operatives here in Washington whose job is to lobby against deals. All of them are like, listen, look, Trump ceasefire, it's a historic achievement. However, as long as the Islamic regime remains in place, Israel is no longer safe. Or now we have to get back to the negotiating table. And when we get back to that negotiating table, we cannot let the Iranians put in any poison pills. They are laying the ground there for more violations of potential ceasefire, future Israeli action, more pushing the United States. And look at the vector now that they have on Donald Trump. All they have to do is to convince him that he's been humiliated by Iran or something like that. And of course, he could change his mind immediately. Mark Levin is immediately on his radio show saying that doing a ceasefire with Nazis is terrible strategy, hard against Donald Trump. I'm watching the same thing. Half of these like neocon agitating accounts, they're furious with Trump actually for restraining Israel because Iran broke the ceasefire. Look, I don't even know who broke the ceasefire because I don't know when the damn ceasefire even started. I don't think you read that tweet and you tell me if you can decipher what it is. And by the way, it's not just me. The Israelis and the Iranians are confused as well. So look, we're still in a bad situation. This is very, very mission accomplished to me. You know, he wanted it to be the 12-day war, and you can see it in his television brain. This is PR, but this is real life. And by the way, even if it was like such a grand strategic success, did a single thing get accomplished that couldn't have been accomplished with Steve Witkoff? I just don't believe it, right?
Oh, quite the contrary. Right? No, it set us back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The strategic logic of going for a bomb has literally never made. In fact, the neocon logic may actually be more correct today, that the Iranian incentive would be to string along the West to agree to some, half-assed deal or whatever and sprint to a bomb. I'm telling you, that's what I would do. Now, look, the Iranians are weak. They've been humiliated, but they remain to fight another day. Again, like the logic of a shelter in place, bunker down, build as many ballistic missiles and sprint to a nuke has literally never made more sense. Their country was almost destroyed. Like, they got their air defenses gone. They got their nuclear facilities bombed. All their attempts at diplomacy were failures, so they'll take the out where they can. But, I mean, if you are one of those negotiation peddlers inside the Iranian regime, what legitimacy do you have now with the security establishment? Again, have some strategic empathy. So they're not suicidal, but also they live to fight another day. And in a certain sense, like, what has happened to them is so humiliating now on the world stage that I don't know if they really have a choice to go otherwise. And I'm not even really sure what assurances we can offer them to say that this won't ever happen again. Considering, the last 10 years of diplomacy, what are they going to do?
There's zero assurance we could offer them. But what could we, the minute that they give up their nuclear, what they have right now is the 60% highly enriched uranium, which we've heard endlessly about. They have that as a bargaining chip. They have that as something they can get rid of in order to get some sort of a deal and sanctions relief and whatever. They give that up, they're just sitting ducks. That, and if they give up even the pretense of, pursuing some sort of nuclear weapon, which again, they weren't, according to our intelligence, according to the IAEA, they were not pursuing a nuclear weapon. They were using the 60% enriched uranium as a bargaining chip in the negotiations. But yeah, the minute you give all of that up, you're a sitting duck and you can't trust us. Are you kidding me? Trust us? We use this diplomacy as a ruse to allow the Israelis the element of surprise to, extent they were able to achieve that. Then we used a second diplomatic effort as a ruse. That's not even to talk about the fact we actually used a diplomatic ruse to assassinate Qasem Soleimani to begin with. You can't trust us. We're out there floating assassination of your leader, of the Ayatollah, and, partner with these psychos who will do it at a moment's notice the second they get a chance. So, you'd have to be a fool to trust us in those negotiations, trust any sort of assurances that we're going to let you live and let your country be. There's no way. So that's where we are. You, I think, genuinely had a shot with the Witkoff negotiations at the back in the beginning when Witkoff and Trump's position seemed to be, that there was some sort of a deal that could be struck with regard to civilian nuclear usage, some sort of regional consortium, that there was some creative solution that could be worked out, I think you genuinely had a shot at a deal. The minute it was 0% enriched uranium, then that was a poison pill meant to kill those negotiations. And then when we used the final round as a ruse, at least that's the public portrayal, as a ruse in order to allow the Israelis to attack, then you have probably completely closed the possibility of working this out through diplomatic means, which, listen, there are no guarantees in life. Would that have completely guaranteed that they could never and would never pursue a nuclear weapon? No, there's no guarantees in life. Was that a much better course that was much more likely to result in the outcome that you claim to want to achieve? Yes, but that's the thing, guys. This was never, for the people who are pushing this policy, this is never about the nuclear weapons program. They want the Iranian state to collapse. They want it to be a failed state. They would be happy to see some disastrous civil war, some disastrous and deadly civil war that is spiraling out of control, that would create a massive refugee crisis. That's what the Israelis and their allies and the neocons want to see, so that there is no challenge to complete and total Israeli hegemony in the region. That is the goal. That has always been the goal. The Israelis are not shy about saying, ultimately, that that is the goal. And that's why all these people, you know, the Mark Levins of the world and whoever, are just utterly outraged that there's even a possibility that this is the off-ramp that we take. But, you know, listen, everyone should be very skeptical that it ends here. Even if it ends here, this has been disastrous, let's be clear. But you should also be skeptical that it actually ends here, because Saagar's right. You were right in the beginning when you said, listen, the people who want diplomacy, they have to win the battle every single day. The psychos only have to win it once. They only have to get, you know, a Fox News segment that convinces Trump one time, and suddenly you're off to the races again. The Israelis, because they are so hell-bent, Netanyahu in particular, but the Israelis in general, so hell-bent on this outcome of regime collapse, they are not going to stop trying to pull us in and make sure that they get their fondest wish. That is their goal. They are completely and utterly committed to it. And unless you have someone on the other side in Trump who is completely and utterly committed to an alternative outcome, which would be actual peace and diplomacy, they are going to be able to ultimately get their way, because no ideology is not a match for an ideological goal that you are dead set on effectuating. So I think we continue to be in an incredibly dangerous and unstable place, as is seen this morning. And also, I mean, the last thing I'll say here is, like, you know, Trump is making a big show this morning. We also know that a bunch of the things he said in the past were completely and totally fake. So, yeah, and were meant as a show. So you also can't put that off the table, that this is another show. We just genuinely don't know. It seems like he's genuinely frustrated with the Israelis. Yeah, that would be my guess.
I think,
but you can't put that possibility off the table.
All of it shifts so quickly. I don't think that there's, in fact, I know that there's not a level of intention behind it, because all of it really is just about, like, how he feels in this moment. It's about the show. He loves Trump the peacemaker. As you can all see, he's desperate to win the Nobel Peace Prize because Barack Obama, I mean, you know, falsely got one in 2009. But the point remains, like, that's what he wants at this moment. But he also wanted to appear tough and strong and got dragged, or at least went along with it, based upon with Fox News. Of course, the man has agency. But yeah, I mean, the incredible amount of, like, trust the plan and all of this, it's so utterly preposterous. There was no plan. It was moving about from day to day. We came to the brink of war like this. The only reason, by the way, that there was an off-ramp was because of restraint from the Iranian side. You know, somebody riddle me that in terms of what that means. Basically, everyone, I'll reiterate again, is pretending that all of its major goals were accomplished. The Iranians are lying, the Americans are lying, and the Israelis are lying. Now, I guess, you know, that's far preferable to war breaking out. I'm happy. And listen, I would love to see an actual diplomatic solution that comes, you know, that actually happens. With Steve Witkoff and some future negotiation between Israel, Iran, and the United States. But what it would require is the Donald Trump of today basically coming hard against the Israelis.
And we have doing that every day.
I was going to say, and the problem with that is we've seen it once or twice. Oh, you can't attack Iran. Oh, I'm frustrated with you. You're going to take this ceasefire in Gaza. But what's usually the story? The ceasefire in Gaza happens, and then what? Collapses 60 days later. And now they're rolling Gaza. I mean, it's probably never been worse than it is today.
Yeah,
and then
that's right.
what happened again? Oh, you can't attack Iran in April. 61 days later, boom, they attack Iran. So we have a proven track record here. Now, hopefully he learns from that. I am very, very hopeful, but I think that the pro-war side is riding so high right now from being able to even just accomplish this. And they're going to claim a lot of credibility. And, you know, Trump is a person who really can see like where his media, and of course the media is playing a role. CNN's yesterday talking about how this is one of the greatest achievements of Donald Trump's entire presidency, one of the greatest legacies, you know, in the Middle East, right? Like he's a showman. He can see and eats all of this stuff up. So yeah, for me, very mission accomplished vibe. Like the idea this is really going to end on day 13. I just think it's preposterous. And I actually think he's just opened up like Pandora's box. And this problem will now bedevil him for 4 years. It will just constantly rear its ugly head. Can you really force the Israelis to accept a deal? Maybe. I mean, honestly, if any president could, he could do it. But then he would have to want to do it.
No, of course.
And I just don't know if that's going to happen.
Of course he could do it.
Yeah.
Of course. Any American president can say to the Israelis at any time, like, that's it. Your aid is pulled. You're not getting these weapons anymore. You're done. If it was not already clear to you how dependent on us they are in order to do anything, then, I mean, I think this whole provocation and war that the Israelis launched should have proved that to you. Because they came in knowing that they could not come close to achieving their goals without getting us to come in. They were running low on interceptors. I mean, I actually think, that's another important aspect of like, okay, if you ask, well, why did they agree to this at this point? I think, yes, the Iranians, it doesn't surprise me they were looking for an off-ramp because, as I said before, they were not looking for an on-ramp to begin with. For the Israelis, I think they likely agreed to it because they were having this issue with interceptors running low. We don't know how much damage they were taking, but they took some significant amount of damage in Tel Aviv and Haifa and other places. And so I think they accepted this as a way to effectively regroup and, you know, have this sort of plan down as like a phased war approach. And so that's likely why they were willing to say, okay, fine, we will do a ceasefire. Do you think they mean we're now going to have permanent peace? You think that? No, of course not. Because the other piece of this, and it does get lost sometimes, is really important to highlight, is not only do you have, you know, this is a multi-decade goal of Netanyahu and other Israeli governments, a huge mass Israeli public support for it as well, but this also, what are we not having as much time to talk about when we are endlessly having to cover whether we are, you know, in this war and not in this war and what bombs we're dropping and what it accomplished, whatever. It makes it very difficult to really focus on what is happening in Gaza. And what is happening in Gaza is horrific. I mean, it really may be some of the worst things we have ever seen. The entire population crowded into a tiny space, rampant, you know, disease and waste and horror. And then you have these near daily, if not daily, aid massacres that are just ongoing. I mean, this is just what's happening in Gaza right now. And so Iran is also provides cover for Netanyahu to be able to finish his ethnic cleansing and genocide in Gaza and in the West Bank as well. That is the, you know, another big piece of this picture that we can't miss out on, which is something that Professor Mearsheimer highlighted yesterday as well, that's a really important piece of understanding their motivations and what is going on here. So that motivation is not going to go away. The longtime desire to destroy Iran and make it so it cannot possibly be anything approaching a competitor to Israel in the region, that is gone. And let me just say, you know, for the neocons out there who say, you know, good, let's let that happen and let's make Iran a failed state or install the Shah or whatever fairy tale fantasy outcome they have in mind. You think it stops there? I mean, next then they'll say, well, what about Pakistan? Pakistan could be a challenge to us. Or maybe it's what about Turkey? Turkey could be a challenge to us. Like, you cannot bomb your way to safety and security in the region. Israel is making themselves the most hated country in the world right now. That is not a way to make you and your people and your security. That is not a way to create safety for your own people. So this logic never stops. Even if they get their disastrous war, you know, that ends in complete chaos and misery in Iran, even then, the logic doesn't stop. So that's where we are. Any other thoughts on this, Saagar, before we move on? Because we do have some other things we want to cover, but I think it's very, very, as we record this morning, it is very uncertain what is ultimately going to unfold and where we're going.
Now the Prime Minister's office just came out and be like, all the war's goals have been accomplished from the Israelis, which, again, it's ridiculous. My last closing thought is, guess it turns out Trump can't order Netanyahu and the IDF, right? Interesting.
No,
that's
yeah.
actually, that's a pretty key point. So if the president can indeed order the Israeli Prime Minister and the IDF to do whatever he wants to do, you should take note of that, because we were told what? Israel is an independent country. They're going on their own. He couldn't stop them. What's he going to do? Tell them no? He just did. Their planes literally turned around in the sky. Yes, they still dropped a bomb on Tehran, but apparently it was like a radar installation and it didn't kill anybody, at least according to the initial reports right now. And they were actually going in to basically raise the place to the ground in response to these ballistic missiles. So I think that's a very interesting lesson, isn't it? Because we were told repeatedly that that's not possible. It's definitely possible if it's something that you want to do. And oh, by the way, Trump now tells reporters aboard Air Force One he's not looking for regime change as long as a tentative ceasefire takes hold. So things are changing. Yeah, it's like things can change every single day. It would be funny, except hundreds of people are actually dead, as a result of this. Innocent civilians in Tehran and in Tel Aviv and all across of Israel. And who knows where things will go in terms of this nuclear program.
And you've made it much more likely that Israel already has large nuclear weapons.
Hundreds of nuclear weapons.
Yeah, at least 90 that we know of for sure.
I thought it was 200.
Could be.
I think Colin Powell said 200.
Really?
It was in WikiLeaks. I'm pretty sure. I have to go back. It's been a while since I looked at it.
They have a lot.
Yeah.
Iran has 0, and now Iran has much more motivation to pursue one. So great. And by the way, around the world, other countries are watching this going,
be like, yeah, I really need to get a nuke.
Maybe I need a nuke, so these people can't fuck with me, because that seems to be the only thing that will deter us and the Israelis from coming in and trying to destroy your entire country.
There we go. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.